So Maggie, Alderman, and I are ready to share with you our talk today that is based part in our last 12 power of the year, which is life, and the first day of Advent, which is hope and faith. They go together ever so well. Our title today is The True Story of Life. Now, we begin, as we have the first Sunday of the month, by looking at what is this power that's innate within us. Charles Fillmore wrote these out in his book, The 12 Powers of Man, and they are just a tapestry of what is a way we can describe God and what is the way we can describe how God works within us. And this one is life. The faculty of movement, vitality, wholeness, and creativity. Pretty important. The disciple is Judas. The location in the body is the generative center, or the first chakra. The color is red. We can wear red all month long. I love that. I love red. Now, I turn again to Charles Fillmore here for his wisdom, which we call from the Revealing Word, his seminal book. And here he talks about hope and faith. Hope is the expectation of good in the future. It is a quality of sense mind because it is subject to time. Faith is the certain knowledge that our good is ours right now. It is of God. It goes beyond time and space. So hope is always with us. We use hope in all kinds of ways. And it's our expectation of good. I yearn for, I hope for. We don't hope for disaster. But whatever we hope for is based on our sense mind. The things we get from our five senses. And what begins in time ends in time. Now, our faith is our knowing that we're one with the eternal presence of God, which is unchanging. And how many powers are there in the universe? There's only one. There's one power, one presence, and we know that. And with that certain knowledge, that's our faith. And it goes way beyond time and space because it's aligned with our divine nature.
Thank you, Gary. So as Reverend Gary said at the beginning of the services, we've got these Advent booklets out in the foyer for you. And I thought, what a perfect way to explain how hope and faith work together in the cycle of life. On December 4th, there's this quote from Michael Jameson that says, "Hope, belief, and faith are not synonymous. Hope is emotional, belief is intellectual, and faith is spiritual." So these three powers work together. These three entities and elements that are alive within us are always evolving, triggering the cycle of hope, emotion, thought, idea, goes into the intellect. And then we have the option, the opportunity, when we get to that mind giant, to allow for the net to be released and realize our infinite possibility, or we can stay within the limited perception of what our human capabilities might or might not be. But when we are able to release and live in the joyous expression of divine intelligence that comes through hope, then we are able to gladly step out of the way, trust in that one presence and one power that is God, the good. It's always good. Get out of the way and allow for faith to unfold and to show us our highest good. And it might be even better than what we thought we were hoping for.
Beautiful. Martha Smock, she was the head of Silent Unity for years. You can change your life by changing the way you think and feel. So we have this experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So it's both ends. We're going to operate through this. And if there's anything in our lives that doesn't work for us anymore, like I looked at recently, because it was only Thursday, that I used to do Thanksgiving a certain way. And it was the right way. And it always had to be done that way. But coming here, I opened to the possibility of letting go of the absolute only way to do Thanksgiving to what if I just show up Thanksgiving Day with something to share with about 60 beautiful, loving people and eat wonderful food and share laughter and stories, time with the kids and time with everyone. It was a magnificent Thanksgiving holiday. All I need do was let go of the old way of doing it. Now, can I go back and do it that way if I ever want to? Of course I can. And so can you. But we can lift our life up with new opportunities by maybe choosing anew.
And I loved this quote from Martha Smock as well. This is a perfect segue. It says, when you feel that something is lacking in your life, when you question the meaning and purpose of your life, it's not because you lack something, but because you have something. Work with what you have. I loved this, and I have to admit that I sat with it thinking, what exactly is Martha Smock saying here? What she's saying is that we always have abundance and power and authority in our lives. And where hope comes in, it's the product of struggle. It's the product of strife in our lives. If we were living in our parents' house, my dads are here, hi, as a teenager, then where would we be as a group of adults right now? We would stay where we were comfortable, in a place that was easy, in our parents' house, driving them crazy. But where we have a feeling or a rub that becomes hope, hope is that action inspiration. Hope is the thing that says, this might not be the job for me anymore. This might not be the house for me anymore, or the relationship for me anymore, the town for me anymore, or the friends for me anymore. Things change in our belief systems. Our hopes are based in emotions, and we're born with them, and we collect them, expanding our hopes through those emotions in every single interaction we have in our lives. So how is it possible that we would be lacking? We have so much possibility. It is for us to get in tune with and feel that emotion and allow for all of the thoughts, the monkey mind, to run amok, then harness that, bring it back into alignment with who and what we are. We are infinite people. We are infinite in the divine spirit that is God, each and every one of us. And when we know that, faith is a piece of cake.
I love a good cake. Charles Roth, a Unity minister, spirituality cannot be separated from everyday life. You would not be living if you weren't for this spiritual life energy that is enlivening you. It is only when we, in our minds, try to separate the so-called sacred from the so-called secular that we find ourselves alone, helpless, tense, worried, and afraid. We're always one with God. In each and every moment. Do we remember it every moment? I don't. I've only met one person that in my time with them, they never forgot it. And that was Mother Teresa in 1989. She was present. We can get to that same place by simply stop separating ourselves from it. I think we're just addicted to forgetting because it's so wonderful to remember. But anytime we're feeling that shame, that guilt, the depression, the confusion, the doubt, the fear, the worry, it's all going to be based on our separation from the truth of our being one with God. And all we need do is feel the feeling to completion. And boom, we're back to essence. All we need do is forget or forgive that which we've gone off on a tangent in our sense mind. Stepping away from the spiritual life energy that is always aliving us. If I focus my faith on the worst thing that's going to happen, I'm feeling my faith. I'm one with my faith. But I'm one with my faith that is only based in a limited time frame. Where if I place my faith in God, then what kind of a worst day can I have? Even if I've hurt my back, or I'm in pain, or there's traffic on I-35, and I've got to get there, I'm still one with God. It's a choice that we make every day in so many ways in our journey. We've been given all the tools, and God doesn't care how we use them. We can live in anger and fear as long as we want to. And as soon as we're done with it, we can come home to the truth of being one. This is the true story of life. This is stepping into or owning that we are able to choose where we're going to direct our hope, our belief, and our faith.
That's right. Jonas Salk was one of the physicians that founded a successful polio vaccine. When I was looking on inspiration for hope and faith, I found this quote by him. Hope lies in dreams, in imagination, and in the courage of those who dare to make dreams into reality. The courage. I'll tell you that it's not always easy to bring what we learn here in Unity at church, in our community, into our everyday lives. It takes bravery to show up as our highest good, to train our minds, to train our actions, to show up in the truth of who we are. And I'll give you an example. I'm ready to turn the page and share a little bit more about who Maggie Alderman is. A long time ago, I was watching an A&E documentary about the Texas Roller Girls. They had camaraderie and culture and love for one another, and I thought, I want to do that. I had a hope. I didn't have a prayer because I couldn't roller skate, but I had a hope. And the next time I looked in the newspaper, lo and behold, they were having tryouts for roller girls in Virginia where I lived. And I sat in the car in the parking lot in front of that roller rink with a hope of being accepted and being a part of and overcoming some really large obstacles. Couldn't skate. I was the kid that held on to the wall at every birthday party. And I went in, and my mind was saying, get back in that car. Do not go in there. You're going to fall, break something, hurt something. Don't do it. You're going to embarrass yourself. Ego. All of this was just messing with me. But I brought myself into the alignment of the truth of my infinite possibilities. And I marched into that roller rink. I strapped on the worst pair of roller skates. I embarrassed myself. I fell down 100 times. I was told, point blank period, you aren't cut out for this. And 6 months later, I became Thunderlips. And I captained our travel team for 8 years. The girl who could not do it. My mind was telling me that I was limited. My faith told me to do better and put in the work. It was so much more difficult to train my mind those 6 months than it was my body, I'll tell you that.
Beautiful. And this is a great segue to our co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore. I think that the disappointments and unhappy experiences are just opportunities for you to put what you know of truth to the test so that you will grow stronger and more full of faith and thus ready for greater blessings that are on the way. Everything in God's world is working toward perfection. This is always true, and it's certainly exampled in Myrtle's life. This young woman with 3 children, all of her life she had struggled with tuberculosis. All of her life she had been told, like everyone else in her family, you're going to die of tuberculosis. And at this moment in her life, she had been told by her doctors, at most you've got 6 months to live. She went to a lecture, a New Thought speaker, E.B. Weeks, and what she got out of that talk was this thought: I'm a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. Now this was a huge awakening for her. And she took it home it was a new thought. She'd never had this thought before. And as she took it into prayer and meditation, she focused and turned to every cell, every organ of her bodies and said, please forgive me, liver, for ever thinking you as less than holy and divine. Because you are a divine expression. And as she did this, slowly but surely, she released all the old belief that she wasn't enough, that she was sickly, that she was frail, that she would die of tuberculosis at a young age. And she completely healed from uncurable tuberculosis. And then, while she's sitting in her living room, and the neighbors are looking in going, what's up with Myrtle? She's looking fabulous. So they came in and sat with her. And they began to pray and meditate in the same way of holding that they were a child of God and that they don't inherit whatever their issue was. And all of a sudden, the poverty, the crutches, all dropped. And each of them began to live their life knowing their wholeness and their oneness with God as a divine expression. And Myrtle lived to a very ripe old age with no recurrence of disease. We have within us the power to focus our energy of truth within us in any aspect of our life. Because, is God ever sick? No. Is God ever poor? No. Is God ever doomed to trials and tribulations? No. Those are all our sense mind concepts, and we can choose to identify with the wholeness that's in every cell of our being. For how many powers are there in the universe? One. And if there's only one power and one presence in the universe, we're not exceptions to the rule. And all we need to do is turn within and identify with the truth. Again, the truth story of life.
And that's sometimes easier said than done, isn't it? Don't leave me hanging. Am I the only one who struggles and strives with this need to be reminded and remember through the training of my own muscle memory and the own experiences that it is always working for my highest outcome? My faith always leads me in the right path. But I look to Martin Luther King, and he says, faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. And I am not always the first to take that first step without knowing where I'm going, how I'm going to get there, who am I going to meet along the way, how long is this going to take, and will I need a snack? Because I want to control it. And I wrestle with that cycle of life, feelings, thoughts, and divine expression. And sometimes it's not enough for me to remember just by myself who and what I am and all that I am capable of. Sometimes I need help from a friend. So I want to tell you all about the day I met Jesus. I finished my SEE classes in record time, knocking those puppies out one by one, and I went on a cruise to celebrate. And you would think that I should be a part of the celebration, that God would be like, yeah, Maggie, cut loose, girl, have fun. Nope, go to the Sky Chapel. Really, God? Go to the Sky Chapel. So while everybody's onboarding and the party's getting going, I'm sitting alone in the Sky Chapel. And I'm wrestling with feelings like I feel like I want to be a minister. I feel like I have something to give. And my mind saying, who do you think you are? Get back in line, sister. You can't do that. No one wants to hear what you have to say. You got that wrong. So I was wrestling with this. What do? God, please show me what to do, because if I take this next step, everything's going to change. And I opened my eyes, and a tiny little Hispanic man was sitting next to me with piercing crystal blue eyes. And he said, "Keep thine eye single." Telling me the story of when Jesus was asleep in the back of the boat in the storm on the Sea of Galilee, and his disciples going bananas and wanting his steadfast faith that they were going to be okay. He said, "Keep thine eye single." And that was a gift and a story that has stayed with me whenever I find myself in doubt, or whenever I have that stirring of emotion that feels like hope, that's wrestling with my beliefs that may need to be set aside so that I can step out in faith and do what is mine to do, one step at a time.
And so we conclude this sharing with this quote from Catherine Ponder, Unity Minister. Life is a constant purification process. If you try to bypass this cleansing process in your thoughts and feelings, you bypass your good, because you have not cleaned out your mind and emotions to receive the good you want. I love this wisdom because it culminates with what we've been talking about, from our stepping into what Myrtle's journey was, and our own, as we accept our own process of discerning. What is it I want? What gets in my way? And sometimes there's a new idea that can open a whole new way of celebrating a holiday, or joining time with a friend, or opening our heart to being whole, complete, just as we are. A human being walking through a spiritual experience using our innate faculties, these 12 powers of how we're going to step into this Advent season, awakening to our Christ consciousness. Aren't you excited? Isn't it worth doing whatever we need to do to awaken to the truth of our being? And that's why we've come here. That's why we're here today, to open up the realization and awareness. Obviously, it's time for this tongue to stop talking. Let's take it into meditation as the Unity Singers will guide us in music.
Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I'll be a teach our children to stop the fighting, start uniting, live as one. Let's get together, loving forever. Sanctuary for you, Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. Thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
As we settle into this moment of meditation, let's prepare our sanctuary, that safe space within us, as we set down anything that we brought with us today. We rest in this now moment. Turning within for silent communion. with the depth of our being. We open ourselves to a still small voice. And all we need do is listen. In peace, in wholeness, in safety. And so as we breathe easy and settle into this moment, let's listen to God's guidance on how can we be in holy kinship with you in the silence. As we emerge from this sacred space, we're ever grateful for our increasing awareness of our oneness with God. With gratitude, let's awaken from this time, bringing with it whatever we've received, the peace, the wholeness, and the grace. And so as we bring ourselves back into this room, we wiggle our fingers or wiggle our toes, roll our head, or roll our shoulders, and when we're ready, we open our eyes, prepared and ready to say this affirmation for today's talk. Together, I put my faith into action and watch the power of God at work. And so it is.
Step out on the water, release your faith. Every step is stronger. Step out on the water.